Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning into the program today. Today on the show, we have a company called CNEXT, and if you haven't heard about them, this is, well, I think the best way to hear about them, because we have, of course, the CEO of the company on to talk about what it is, how it works, what it can do, and what they're hoping to do with this product. And in a time where going to the movie is, well, impossible, this is a very, very cool technology. And I'm looking forward to talking about it in just a moment. But before we get to that, everyone, computer and technology news in the second part of the program, and of course, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including a link to our guest website. So if you're driving, if you're busy, if you're doing anything that you have your hand tied with, then it's okay. Just remember our website, and we'll have a link to their website right there. Also on the website, you'll find articles, reviews, you'll find the podcast, social media, past shows, future shows, everything that we do. We try to make that very, very simple by having it up on the website. So, of course, again, you can find that at computeramerica.com, at Computer America on all socials. And let's go ahead and get started. Let's introduce our guest, and we'll go ahead and start talking about this. And yeah, you know, I'm really looking forward to this because, as I said before, I'm sure that a lot of you out there are movie buffs. You have, you know, you love going to the theater, and while it may not be the same thing at home, it can be at least it gives companies a way to release these films that have been delayed by months and months and months. And yeah, there has to be some way to get them out the door, and I think this is going to be it. So everyone, welcome onto the program. CNEXT, we have the CEO again, Mr. Jihan Fuat Atkin, and hopefully I said that right. And of course, Jihan, thank you so much for coming on the program.
For having me on the show.
Yeah, our pleasure for having you. And yeah, and let's go ahead and start at the beginning. Let you go ahead and introduce yourself, your company, and how did you get involved in this, and what is your background? So, and again, I said that a little weird. When was the company founded, and how, and what is your background?
Yeah, totally. So my background was actually not in tech or in the movie business at all. My background out of college was working in the infrastructure and project development, you know, career or industry, you would say. And I did a lot of greenfield projects and, you know, infrastructure projects with a company in the Middle East that I started out with out of college. In 2012, I came up with this idea, the ability to sell tickets per viewer and stream content that we would have to physically go to places for. So whether...
That's not good. He froze a little bit there. I'm hoping that is that he's going to come back here in just a moment. And everyone, unfortunately, yeah, these things happen. Live radio, what are you going to do? You have to expect it, and hopefully it's just a hiccup. Although starting to look like it might not be just a hiccup. So everyone, Gian, can you hear me? So everyone, yeah, we're, let's see. Okay, so with that being said, and I'm going to have to kind of cut this interview short. Normally, we of course love having guests on, especially those who have interesting and new products and services, and we really appreciate that they take the time out of their day. Just unfortunately, seems like, hey, it may not be the best time, and we're having some technical glitches. Although Jihan is back. Jihan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. And I really apologize for doing this on the air, but would you mind if we reschedule this for another time when you're at a little bit of a better location and, you know, and setup? And I think we lost the signal again. So I'm going to take that as a yes, and we're going to, unfortunately, just reschedule. These things happen, and technology, as much as we love it, as much as we praise it, it does not want to cooperate all the time. So we're going to go ahead and end that meeting. So end it. Okay, and there you have it. So I'm going to deal with the fallout of that later. It's all going to be okay. We're going to go ahead and move on with computer and technology news, and that is brought to you by Computer America. If of course, if you tuned in for CNext, then they will be on the show just at another time. And again, I apologize for the inconvenience. So everyone, computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. So everyone, with that being said, we tried our best, and we're going to go ahead and move on. This first story that we're going to do, there's actually two very big ones that I wanted to cover, and let's see, I think this was one of the biggest ones. Facial recognition, this one coming from Independent. And it's all about facial recognition has been used unlawfully and violated human rights. Court of Appeals rules in landmark case. This is going to be an ongoing theme here on the show because, well, hey, facial recognition systems, they're only getting cheaper, more accurate, and yeah, they're super easy to really install. Because the solution is software based, and once you have the hardware, once you have the camera set up in a city, and really go to New York, go to Los Angeles, go to London, go to any of these major metropolitan areas, oh boy, you will see cameras everywhere. It will freak you out. And let's go ahead and talk about this one and how they arrived at this. They said that a British police force, and this is obviously in the UK, a British police force violated human rights by unlawfully using facial recognition technology. The Court of Appeal has ruled in a landmark case. Judges have been considering two uses of the controversial technology in Cardiff, but the judgment could have an impact on growing use in other parts of the UK. And the people who were against this, the people who were hoping that, you know, it would be found unconstitutional, or I guess unlawful over there in the UK, they said that the sinister facial recognition is to be banned as a result of the ruling, but national police and everyone, I'm actually looking, let's see, I probably have to take this call, so just one moment, everyone hang tight. I hope all of you enjoyed that waiting music. I really apologize for that. So everyone, we were just getting back to this, and by the way, that phone call that I just had to take was indeed our guest, and we're going to go ahead and reschedule him for next week. Now, back to the facial recognition. They said that 3 senior judges said that South Wales Police had violated the right to privacy under the European Convention on Human Rights, as well as data protection laws and duties to address concerns about racial or sex discrimination. They said that an order published on Tuesday said 2 deployments in December 2017 and March 2018. Yeah, that's quite a while. Think about how fast technology moves and how much we have started to implement facial recognition technology since 2017, 2018, and they finally just ruled on it once again. They said that it was not in accordance with the law. The legal challenge has been dismissed by High Court judges in September, but the Court of Appeals allowed a challenge by campaigner Ed Bridges on 3 of the 5 grounds. So with that being said, they said that there has not been an adequate data protection assessment, which is required by the Data Protection Act of 2018. The Data Protection Act of 2018, digging way back into the past, about 2 years ago, that was when you had to start accepting cookies. That's when you had to hear about how everyone was dealing with your data. It may have been a little annoying on your end, but it really brought to light how people and companies were using the data that they were collecting. So it was a great move, and that seems to be an extension of this with the facial recognition system. They said that boy, I don't know anything about the UK's legal justice system. There's a ton of titles here that are just so strange. But they agreed unanimously that the police have been given too broad a discretion over the watch list used to compare scanned faces against. There you go. Saying that there was no evidence before it that there is any reason to think that the particular automatic facial recognition technology used in the case did have any bias on racial or gender grounds. However, the whole purpose of positive duty is to ensure that a public authority does not inadvertently overlook information which it should take into account. So if I'm and again, if I'm interpreting this right, they're saying that there has been proof of racial and sex discrimination when it comes to cameras and facial recognition systems. That is very, very well documented. It misidentifies people of color. It misidentifies females much more often than it misidentifies essentially Caucasian males. And they're saying that causes the system that law enforcement is using to overlook the information by not having to look through the cameras and photos themselves. They are overlooking evidence that they should otherwise really be scrutinizing themselves. And it's putting an undue burden on people of color and people who are not male. They said the judges urged all police forces using the novel and controversial technology in future to do everything reasonable to make sure that the software used does not have a racial or gender bias. So with that being said, they said that Mr. Bridges said his human rights have been violated by the intrusive surveillance tool after he was scanned at a protest while Christmas shopping in Cardiff. hey, he was in the wrong place, wrong time, and the facial recognition system did not care. And next thing you know, you are on a watch list for no other reason than just some faulty piece of software said that you should be. That's what happened. Now, with let's see. So the High Court found that up to 500,000 people have been scanned by South Wales Police as of May 2019, and you can be sure. Notice that the order does not say they have to stop using it. They're just saying that they can't convict on it, and that they have to do everything reasonable to make sure that there are no biases within the technology. So they can keep using it. They just have to improve it even more. Let's see. So looking through the article goes on for a bit longer, and we're going to kind of end it here. But just to wrap it up, the whole aim of facial recognition technology is to keep the public safe and assist us in identifying offenders and protecting communities from individuals who pose a risk. He added that he considers, so with that being said, the government is committed to empowering the police to use new technologies like facial recognition safely within a strict legal framework. And that is the part that is really missing from America in a lot of ways. We have a lot of facial recognition systems running right now. Almost every large tech company, from IBM, Intel, Microsoft, Amazon, of course, Google, of course, Apple, all of them are collecting this data. They are putting it into databases. States are selling the pictures that you take for your driver's license to these companies so that they can build up a better database and be able to identify people using this technology. It is very pervasive, but we saw this article goes all the way back to an instance in 2017, and you could be sure that there will be challenges on an ongoing basis. The technology is going to move light years faster than the legal framework that they're talking about. So I'm hoping that in the US, this is obviously all happening in the UK, I'm hoping that the US can take a lesson and say, we need to get really serious about this, because law enforcement all over America are using it. And how do we make sure that they use it effectively, legally, and it doesn't put an undue burden on certain groups and minorities? So there you have it. There was story number one. Story number two, we're going to go ahead and talk about this other one that we've talked about on the show before. It's a very touchy subject if you are a multi-billion-dollar venture capital funded ride-sharing company. And I know there has to be a few of you out there. Two that we know in particular are Lyft and Uber. And there are even responses. So the article title is California Judge Orders Uber and Lyft to Reclassify Drivers as Employees. There you go. That doesn't work for Uber or Lyft. Let me just tell you that right now. The only way that these companies are able to do what they do is by providing, and if this is the first time you've ever heard about this, the gig economy and what these companies claim that they do is that they claim they only provide the platform. They are connecting, let's say, Uber drivers with Uber riders. And Uber, the company, is strictly the middleman in the technological platform that these individuals are using between independent contractor and rider. Much in the same way, let's say eBay doesn't have to claim all of its sellers are its employees. They're using independent contractors to prop up their business so that they don't have to provide any kind of minimum wage, they don't have to provide any kind of health care, they don't have to provide any kind of protections, vacation, sick leave, maternity leave, paternity leave. They don't have to provide anything to these individuals. And don't get me wrong, over the past couple of years, they have started to, as much as the law kind of forces them to, but they're still independent contractors that cost way less, and in some cases, much under minimum wage than a regular employee would. So, with all that being said, that is how Uber and Lyft and other kind of gig economy marketplaces work. And that goes for food delivery, that goes for grocery shopping, whatever. Now, why this matters. California is where these companies are based out of, and what happens in California is generally what happens across the US. California is a massive economy, and if you don't participate in California, well, you're not going to turn a profit. There's huge money to be made there. Now, the ride-hailing companies, along with other gig economy firms, are resisting classifying their drivers as employees. And a new California law codified stricter requirements for companies so that they can classify workers as contractors. Here are the new rules, saying that companies are also behind a California ballot measure that would keep drivers as contractors and provide them with some benefits. Oh, and by the way, that article actually links to the bill that happened back in 2019, and it was finally put into law. So let's see. Now, let's go ahead and continue on. Let's get the statements from Uber and Lyft saying that the court's ruling is stayed for a minimum of 10 days, and we plan to file an immediate emergency appeal on behalf of California drivers. The vast majority of drivers want to work independently, and we've already made significant changes to our app to ensure that that remains the case under California law. When over 3 million Californians are without a job, our elected leaders should be focused on creating work, not trying to shut down an entire industry during an economic depression. That's from Uber. Lyft statement: drivers do not want to be employees, full stop. Will immediately appeal this ruling and continue to fight for their independence. Ultimately, we believe this issue will be decided by California voters, and they will side with the drivers. Okay, let's talk about that one real quick. Both Uber and Lyft have essentially the same line in them, and I like the way that Lyft put it, saying drivers do not want to be employees, full stop. I don't understand how people who are looking for a steady income or some kind of income to supplement what it is that they do, who commit themselves to 40, 50, 60 hours of really work, driving people, delivering groceries, again, whatever the gig economy asks of them, they put in the time, they put in their 40 plus hours, they're taking the beating on their car, they're making less than minimum wage. They don't do that for fun. You know, you don't earn $6 an hour and drive all over the place for fun, and there's really not that much of an incentive to be an independent contractor versus an employee. An employee will, as I said before, get all kind of benefits. They'll get health insurance, they'll get many things that, let's face it, if you're driving for these companies, yeah, you're looking for more money, you're looking for ways to support yourself and your family. So when Lyft says drivers do not want to be employees, full stop, I find that to be a massive lie on behalf of these companies. Maybe that's what they believe. I surely doubt that they believe it, but it's what they're going to say. And both of them are going to file emergency appeals and hopefully influence looks like some kind of the upcoming election so that they can Because again, this is going to be on the ballot to make this a thing. But yes, they want to be employees. Yes, I know that if they become employees, these industries cannot exist. You cannot employ 3 million people at the drop of a hat. You know, to go from 3 million independent contractors to 3 million employees is impossible for any of these companies. And they're already operating at a loss. They are not making that much. Like, if any of them are making money, it's not that much compared to what they owe from venture capital and so on and so forth. This industry cannot survive if they become employees. But at the same time, should it be if the industry exists because you're exploiting people who are desperate for even the barest amount of income? That's been the ongoing discussion, and it looks like California is starting to come down on the side of the drivers, and the corporations are none too happy about that. A lot of money is at stake. I want to make that very clear. A lot of people do rely on these jobs and these gigs, but they're probably not sustainable in the long run. And I'm going to be keeping an eye on what happens to all of these drivers and this entire industry. So there you go. Hey, stay tuned, Computer America. We'll be sure to keep you up to date. Now, that was our second story. First 2 stories have been very heavy. Let's do something a little bit lighter, a little bit easier. And hey, why not? Actually, let's do this article instead. Xbox Series X. Codename Project Scarlet. There's another one named Project... Boy, I completely forgot what this Series S is. It's not Scarlet, it's Project, whatever it is. But anyways, new console. Microsoft has confirmed a November launch, but with the pandemic, Halo Infinite will be delayed. Which is unfortunate because Halo is it's not as much as it used to be. But it is a console pusher, and unfortunately, it will not be available for launch. But check this one out. This one just coming out today and saying that for over a year, they said that they have announced that that Xbox Series X would be available for the holidays. Now we have a little bit of a firmer timeline where it will say sometime in November. But while that launch will include what Microsoft says are thousands of games spanning 4 generations, including 50 new titles optimized for Xbox Series X, planned for release this year, that launch will not include Halo Infinite. And Microsoft is doing this very smartly. Is smartly a word? Intelligently, where you can download many games that were available or that you already own through Steam or through the Xbox Marketplace and play them day one on the newer console with better hardware. Now, with that being said, Microsoft cited balancing the team's well-being while finishing the critical work necessary for launch on the game. The official Halo Twitter cited the ongoing COVID-related impacts affecting all of us this year as one of multiple factors behind the delay. And what is that saying? A delayed game is eventually good, but a rush game will always be bad. So I'm hoping that they get everything right and it plays very, very well. Now, unlike pretty much every previous game console, the Xbox Series X will not be focused on exclusive titles that require new hardware. Instead, the release will continue to work across Xbox One and Series X for the time being, with optional optimization to take advantage of the newer hardware. Essentially, they're selling you a prepackaged PC that is running some kind of operating system that is optimized for games, just so you know. So some of the newly optimized games that will take advantage of the Xbox Series X hardware will include Destiny 2, Forza Horizon 4, Gears 5, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, and Madden NFL 21. Let's see. So, unlike Sony's PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series X will maintain compatibility with older Xbox One accessories, with one specific exception. Microsoft also stressed the Series X backwards compatibility, and that many games that you have for your current Xbox One will be improved with 4K resolution, HDR colors, filtering, and double frame rates. So everyone, with that being said, and by the way, the other one, the Project Lockhart, that was the codename I was thinking of for the Xbox Series S, should be coming out around the same time. So there you go. And that will be focused more on streaming games and running games at under 4K. So Series X, 4K, Series S, not 4K. That's really going to be the big difference, and there will be some performance increases, but I'm sure that most games will run perfectly on both. So there you go. That was story number 3. Story number 4, looking at all of these different ones that we could talk about here. Okay, Mozilla. When it comes to the browser race, unfortunately, Mozilla is, well, maybe fortunately, they're a strong second. They are maybe the only one with any kind of significant market share. Maybe Edge has some kind of edge on them, but really it's Chrome. Chrome has almost a 70% market share on browsers. That puts Mozilla in an awkward position because they have been acquired, they have been dequired, I guess, if that's a thing. Their mission has always been to provide the best browsing experience with security in mind. Sometimes they come short, and sometimes they get acquired by companies that want to turn a profit. Well, looks like the new CEO is looking to turn a profit, and maybe it's for the best. A company, as much as we love altruism and we love the idea that people do this for fun or for passion or for the greater good, hey, money pays the bills, and we may see a transition over at Mozilla Firefox. Mozilla is laying off 250 people, about a quarter of its workforce, and plans to refocus some teams on projects designed to make money. The company will have roughly 750 employees going forward, a spokesperson confirmed. So Mozilla is laying off about 25% of its employees. That's a good chunk. That is that's pretty huge. The coronavirus pandemic significantly impacted our revenue. Mozilla CEO Michelle Baker wrote in a blog post this morning, as a result, our pre-COVID plan was no longer workable. Mozilla's operation in Taipei will be closed as a result of the layoffs. The company didn't otherwise say which teams would be impacted, and Mozilla previously laid off 70 people in January, blaming the slow rollout of new revenue products. So the CEO says that, she desperately wishes that there was some other way, and I'm sure that a lot of people feel the same. It's, like I said, Mozilla has a strong following and a good core user base because they were that company that didn't sell your data outright. They didn't, I guess the way to put it is they weren't the bad guys. And now their mission statement has to change to adapt to a changing world. As part of the layoffs, Baker said, laid out a series of new focuses on Mozilla to set a stronger course for the company. That includes focusing on building community, building new products that mitigate harms and that people love and want to use, and crucially, to build out revenue streams. What I can kind of guess that means is that, well, Mozilla is probably going to come out with a VPN, and it looks like, yeah, that's later in the article. They're going to come out with a VPN. They're going to have some kind of payment system that you can use within the browser. They're going to have ad blockers and other things like that. Mozilla is going to start offering products that you can pay for. That seems to be the big thing here. Now, Mozilla makes most of its money from companies paying to make their search engine the default in Firefox. This includes deals with Baidu in China, Yandex in Russia, and most notably Google in the US. The company also makes money from royalties, subscriptions, and advertising, but those search deals still represent the majority of its revenue. I didn't know that. It's actually pretty interesting. Now, Baker says Mozilla will initially focus on products such as Pocket, its VPN service, its VR chat room hub, and new security and privacy tools. The company started launching paid consumer services over the past year, offering a new subscription to access the VPN from directly within Firefox. Let's go ahead and wrap this up and say that, quote, I desperately wish that there was some other way to set Mozilla up for long-term success and building a better internet. But to go further, we must be organized to be able to think about a different world. So, cutting 25% of your workforce is huge, and I hope this works out for them. Again, Mozilla, I think, will always have that sort of goodwill from its loyal fan base, but if they change too drastically, there are alternatives. And as much as they want to be the good guys and open source and security focused, there will be, I guess, kind of fragments or fragmentations of Mozilla that will pick up the pieces. So certainly have to wait and see what see what they are going to do. Now, let's see. So, okay. You know what? Sure. Let's switch this up so much that everyone's going to sit up in their seat and say, "What?" Now, this is technology, because everyone be careful with your emails. That's about all I can say going into this. McDonald's CEO sent nude photos of employees over work email. A lawsuit says. Check this one out. The CEO deleted photos from phone, but they were still on the server, McDonald's says. This is a topic that comes up every now and again, and it's so interesting to me that people as high up as the office of the CEO of McDonald's can be caught up in this as well. McDonald's Corporation has sued former CEO Steve Easterbrook to recoup a $40 million severance package, saying that the company found evidence on its email servers that Easterbrook was lying when he denied having sexual relationships with employees. Yeah, don't do that. Now, Easterbrook initially fooled McDonald's by deleting emails from his phone. So tricky. Delete the emails. They'll never find it. Allowing him to get generous severance payments despite being fired, the lawsuit against him said. So I guess they knew about the inappropriateness of the former CEO, but because he deleted the evidence, which anyone who works in IT, there's you can delete things. Don't get me wrong. There are ways to delete things, but just putting it in the trash bin and emptying out your trash bin is not really going to do the trick, especially if you are on a huge network. Now, but months after paying him the severance package, McDonald's checked its email servers and discovered that Easterbrook sent, naked photographs of employees from his work email accounts. Don't do that. Now, McDonald's says it also discovered that Easterbrook approved a stock grant worth hundreds of thousands of dollars for an employee he was in a relationship with. Man, this guy got away with it. McDonald's said in a filing with the Security and Exchange Commission yesterday that its lawsuit aims to recover compensation and severance benefits that would not have been retained by Mr. Easterbrook had he been terminated for cause. There you go. And I guess because he deleted everything and this proof is coming up months after the fact, he was let go because of the allegations. And obviously everything with, the Me Too movement, you don't want to look soft on people who are abusing their positions of power. So they let him go, took a severance package and ran, and now it's catching up to him. Let's see. So the SEC filing includes a copy of the lawsuit that they filed against Easterbrook in the Court of Chancery in the state of Delaware. Another corporation from Delaware. I'm surprised. Now, Easterbrook was terminated without cause, as I said before, which entitled him to receive his substantial severance benefits, which again, $40 million. Don't you wish you could be fired without a cause and get $40 million? It's crazy. Despite that, the lawsuit defends the quick firing and minimal investigation, saying that the board's strategy to seeking a smooth transition paid off, and they rebounded quickly and by mid-December had fully recovered. And so by November to mid-December was the turmoil, and they did it very quickly. Sounds like, obviously, if they had done a closer investigation and looked at all the evidence and tried to find these things in the very beginning, yeah, they would have found it and they would have fired him for these things. But because they just wanted him, sorry about that, but because they just wanted him out of the company and they did it very, very quickly, they just lost $40 million, and it's now up to the courts to decide if he needs to repay that. McDonald's says it received an anonymous report that Easterbrook had a relationship with a McDonald's employee while he was CEO. Then, when the company says it checked its own email servers and found the photographic evidence having those relations with 3 McDonald's employees in the year before his termination. He sent the nude pictures from his company email account to his personal email, the complaint said. I'm not going to do a walkthrough on how not to get caught with this kind of thing. But it's not that hard to not get caught with this kind of thing. Especially if you don't associate yourself with your work email. Strange. Now, the date and timestamps of the photographs of one employee also conclusively show that they approved a special discretionary grant of restricted stock units to employee number 2 shortly after their encounter. There you go. So we're going to go ahead and leave that one here. Wrap it up by saying, had Easterbrook not deleted evidence from his phone and lied to the board and its investigators in October 2019, the board would have known the full record of the conduct when it considered the terms of his separation. And yeah, no response here from the former CEO, but I doubt there would be. So there you go. McDonald's not doing the most diligent work, and the only reason this whole thing came to light was the fact that, well, an anonymous person reported it. Pretty crazy. So, I hope that mixed it up a little bit for you, and hopefully in a good way, not in a bad way. Let's talk about... There was a really cool one, and it's from Xiaomi, so this doesn't really affect people here in the US because Xiaomi products are generally not sold in the US. But check this one out. The images speak for themselves. Highly encourage everyone to go out to Computer America, check out the images in the show notes, or you could just type in Xiaomi see-through TV. And this thing is a 55-inch display that will cost, drumroll, 50,000 won. There you go. And for those of you who, of course, don't know how much a won is, about $7,200. Which honestly, $7,200 for a 55-inch screen, not bad for a see-through screen. This is not really something that that people are going to be buying for their own homes. This is going to be a product that will be used in malls, in displays, at conventions. See-through displays have a very limited kind of use, and people's homes are generally not going to be it. So as part of its 10th anniversary celebration, Xiaomi revealed a transparent TV, the MyTV Lux OLED Transparent Edition. When it turned off, in Transparent Edition, when it's turned off, the display looks like a piece of glass. When it's turned on, images appear to float in thin air, or so Xiaomi says. And obviously, the only images that we have are the press releases, and they're only pictures. They're not actually video of what these things actually look like. The 55-inch transparent OLED panel is likely based on LG's 55-inch transparent display. It has the same 120 Hz refresh rate, 10-bit color depth, and 1 millisecond response time. They said that this will be about $7,200. It goes on sale in China August 16th. And of course, you will probably not see this for sale outside of Asia. Now, we did see this for 2 years now out at CES. Saw it for myself. The transparent displays are very, very impressive. And they do have a spot. That spot, though, unfortunately, is just not really in people's homes. For display cases, for for anything that you need to show information and be able to look through, yes, it's going to be amazing. But for the general consumer, I can't think of all that many use cases where you need to be able to see through your television. And again, odds are you are only going to be able to display certain kinds of information. Like, you can't just put up a regular movie, because obviously a movie is shot in, without transparency in mind. It says the whole scene, and I'm actually kind of curious how the television handles a full-fledged scene in not one of these gimmicky transparent images. So let's go ahead and talk about this one. This is from Ars Technica. Our next story, much like how Lyft and Uber claim that their independent contractors don't want to be employees, Charter Communications is trying to do the exact same thing, but to all of you. This one by John Brodkin, Ars Technica, coming out today. Charter petitioned FCC to eliminate merger conditions that forbids data caps. Data caps. It's such a money grab that I can't believe it's still a topic of conversation. But here we are. So in this case, Charter Communication has claimed to the Federal Communications Commission that broadband users enjoy having internet plans with data caps, in a filing arguing that Charter should be allowed to impose caps on its Spectrum internet service starting next year. Charter isn't currently allowed to impose data caps because of the conditions placed on its merger with Time Warner Cable. But the data cap condition is scheduled to expire May 18th, 2023, but Charter in June petitioned the FCC to let the condition expire 2 years early, in May 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, data caps are coming, and they're not for the consumer benefit, and I would love to hear from anyone out there that is pushing for these data caps. If you are an average person, please send me an email, ben@computeramerica.com, and I'll have you on the air, and we can talk about how data caps are not in your best interest, and I don't know why you love it. Essentially, this is just like Lyft saying that contractors don't want to be employees, full stop. Charter's saying that, our customers love restrictions. They can't get enough of them. They love data caps. What the heck? So let's get to the quote here and see why they think this. So the quote, there is also evident, and again, this is from Charter, there is also evidence that some consumers, either those who do not consume a lot of data or those who are looking for a lower cost plan, may want a service where the prices are based on the amount of data used. These different plans are proliferating in markets because they offer consumers a cost-effective alternative to unlimited data plans that are more than adequate to meet their needs. So, data caps and usage-based pricing conditions, however, prevents Charter from keeping pace with its competitors in offering consumers the kinds of plans that they are looking for. While Charter sees value in providing its service without data caps and has no plans to change that practice, remember, no plans because they're not allowed to for 3 years. Why would you plan for something that you're not allowed to do? Charter reasonably seeks the same flexibility that all of its competitors and peers have to manage data usage. This way, if circumstances change, it has flexibility to offer the service packages its customers want. Now, let's check this one out. And the article says it in the very next line. Charter neglected to mention that home internet providers generally don't charge customers less when they don't use much data. When they say that consumers who don't consume a lot of data are in favor of this, Charter is a fan of consumers who don't use that much data because they're still paying the same $30, $40, $50, $60, $100 a month for the plan, and they just aren't using it to its fullest extent. Which is perfect in Charter's eyes. It's kind of like a gym membership that, the gym would love to take your money every single month, especially if you don't go to the gym and they have to facilitate you. Now, instead, the price is usually the same regardless of whether or not you use 10 gigs a month or 1.2 terabytes a month. Cable customers who exceed a data cap have to pay extra fees, but aside from some limited exceptions, they don't get a discount off the base price when they stay under the cap, which you would think if they are rewarding people for not using as much data, they would go ahead and do that. But no, this is again about making money, not saving consumers money. Charter pointed to Comcast's 1.2 terabyte monthly data cap and the fact that most customers don't use that much data as evidence that the market does not support unreasonable data limitations. But Comcast, like Charter, is only high-speed cable or fiber provider for tens of millions of customers across the United States. And this gets into an entire different discussion about competitiveness and option. I'm sure many of you out there listening, if you try to go out and find new internet providers, if you have Comcast, Charter, AT&T, any of these large companies, odds are you have, if you're lucky, you have two. If you're unlucky, you have one, and if you're really unlucky, you have zero. So when they put in these data caps, it's not even like, if you don't like data caps, then just don't use the service. In a lot of ways, they are effective monopolies, and you only really get one choice. I know that is certainly the case where we are. So Charter has also claimed that the merger conditions prevent Charter from developing innovative service plans tailored to their consumers' needs, but there is nothing preventing Charter from offering cheaper plans to customers now in differentiating plans by speed instead of data allotment. In fact, Charter already does that by charging different prices for different speeds. Now, let's see. So let's go ahead and wrap this up here. Let's see. So this is talking a bit about Roku. Charter's petition is opposed by consumer advocates, hundreds of customers who submitted filings to the FCC docket, and Roku. saying that if it were to sanction data caps in the absence of competitive broadband internet access services, the Commission would not only allow Charter to act on its own incentives to act anti-competitively, but also signal to other broadband companies that who are unconstrained by competition that they too are free to adopt anti-competitive measures. Data caps should become a relic of the past. Really, not a lot of people abuse this. Don't get me wrong. If you give people truly 100% unlimited services, some people will use it to their advantage. I've heard some situations where people are uploading terabytes of information every single night to a different location. And that could be something as simple as security video footage and things like that that's completely uncompressed and going over the network. There will be a few who take advantage of the situation, but the vast majority of people don't. And the problem with data caps is that the data that is pooled by these telecom companies, they're going to start high. 1.2 terabytes, that sounds like a lot of data. But as time goes on, that data cap is going to get lower and lower to 1 terabyte, 900 gigs, 800 gigs, 750 gigs. And when that happens, they're going to keep applying that little bit of pressure until most people are paying just that little bit of extra money, those extra fees for going over the data cap. We see that with cell phone companies and cell phone data plans. The infrastructure can support many times what is currently happening. And don't get me wrong, in some places there is network congestion and these companies need to address that. But by and large, data caps are not for any kind of stability on the network. Instead, they are, again, strictly for making these companies money. One thing that I can point to that definitively shows that is the very beginning of the pandemic, when in March, April, May, when it was first happening, data caps were lifted all over the country. And everyone said, wow, that's great. We're spending more time at home. We're playing more video games. We're watching more movies. We're working from home. No data caps means that I can do everything that I want from the comfort of my home. And the networks did not come crumbling down, with not just people using as much data as they want, but people being forced to use more data than they normally would. And the network held strong. That is evidence right there that data caps should not be imposed. They're not necessary. And again, it's just another way for companies to impose fees and fines on people who are otherwise just using the service as intended. There you go. Now, okay, so there's that one. We have time for like one more. We have one more story that we can do. And this one seems perfect. Boeing 747. While not its most recent airliner, it is almost like a relic of the past. It's still very reliable. The 747 is one of the most widely used planes in all of the world. And check this one out. Since it was first introduced in 1988, guess what was also introduced in 1988? The floppy disk. And I know it's probably been around before, but yeah, the floppy disk was the way to get information from one place to another in 1988. Here we are, 22 years later. Guess what? These crucial updates that go out to Boeing 747, including charts, graphs, any kind of system maintenance, software glitches, and what have you. Boeing is shipping out they're shipping out updates on floppy disk to load avionics software for years. The database housed in these floppy disks are increasingly getting bigger, and some airlines have been moving away from the use of floppy disk, but others are stuck with engineers visiting each month to sit and load 8 floppies with updates to airports, flight paths, runways, and more. Let's see. So with that being said, this was brought up at the Virtual DEF CON conference, the US's largest hacker conference. As modern planes rely upon more sophisticated technology, security researchers are increasingly interested in how planes prevent passengers from interfering with flights. That's a pretty good way, not being able to connect to the internet. No Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth, having to use floppy disk to update their maps. Yeah, not many hackers out there carry around a spare floppy disk full of malware designed for a system from 1988. Very secure. Security is relevant when it comes to in-flight entertainment systems. A cybersecurity professional discovered a buffer overflow exploit on board a British Airways flight, and he was able to use a USB mouse to input long strings of text into an in-flight chat app, crashing the entire in-flight entertainment system from his seat. Security researchers are still hunting for vulnerabilities, and you can be sure that recent planes, including the 777X and the 787, they use fiber networks, and they're able to plug directly into the network. So those might have a bit more of a possible security risk as opposed to, again, floppy disk. Everyone, the music in the background means that we are done. I want to thank you so much for tuning into the show. Again, if you were hoping to hear from CNext, that is, they are a company looking to innovate on the way that we watch movies, not just in the movie theater, but at home. We had to reschedule them, and we will be sure to do that immediately. But everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to Computer America. Until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much. We'll catch you next time. Everyone, Sandy Berger here tomorrow. Bye, everyone.